do that, let me go into this here.
North Carolina and Gonzaga
Okay.
both took losses this weekend. Gonzaga
Yes.
lost again Friday night, this time to Baylor. Shouts to Huck, shouts to Mackenzie Payton and Brody. North Carolina lost again Sunday afternoon, this time to Virginia Tech. Shouts to Bimbo Coles, shouts to Malcolm Delaney. So UNC's now 5-4. Gonzaga's 5-3. If my math is correct, Deadleg, that means the teams that were ranked first and second in the preseason AP poll are now a combined 10-7. Here's the question. Are you concerned about one of these teams, neither of these teams, or both of these teams?
No. First of all, you still won't give Eric Green love on this podcast, and that ends tonight.
I can't. That is the most outrageous individual word I've ever heard of.
It's not his fault.
It is his fault.
Don't punish the guy who received it, all right? You don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to Friday's episode. 2, no, I'm serving this right back to you. What's the bigger deal? Carolina at 5-4 or Gonzaga at 5-3? Gonzaga hasn't lost this many games to this part of a season since 2010, 2011.
And Gonzaga hasn't lost 3 of its first 5 games. Let me make sure I've got it right.
3 of its first 8. Last time? Yeah.
I believe it was the 2002-2003 season is the last time Gonzaga lost 3 of its first 8 games. And for what it's worth.
No, it was 2010, 2011. Yeah, 2010, 2011.
Come on, man. If I'm wrong about this one, I'm just going to get out of here. And
you're bad right now.
We're going to text Cal.
2010, 2011. Gonzaga started 4-5.
Okay, it was 2010, 2011. Gonzaga. God damn it.
Bad. You're bad.
Maybe drinking and prepping at the same time ain't the best idea, you know?
You lost right now. What's the bigger deal? Gonzaga start or Carolina start?
I'm just really disappointed in my trivia time execution today. I feel a little bit like Kentucky on offense. I don't know.
We're getting there too.
Hopefully me and Kentucky both going to get better going forward, you know? I think the bigger deal is North Carolina, and I don't even think it's close. And that's because Gonzaga, 6 of Gonzaga's first 8 games have been against top 35 KenPom teams. Beat Kentucky, Xavier, Michigan State. That's the teams ranked 5th, 31st, 36th at KenPom. As far as I know. Maybe not. I don't know. The losses are to Texas, Purdue, Baylor. Those are the teams ranked 2nd, 5th, and 6th in the most recent AP poll as of Sunday night. So, sure, Gonzaga is off to a disappointing 5-3 start. That is true, and that is one way to look at it.
Another way to look at it. You had Gonzaga higher than North Carolina. That's why I'm asking you this question.
I did, and I still do. And I still do have Gonzaga higher than North Carolina.
So validated.
But how about this? Here's another way to describe the Zag season so far. They got 3 quality wins, 0 embarrassing losses through their first 8 games, which is still better than something like 98 or 99% of the teams in the sport. So I'm not too concerned about Gonzaga. I think here's the truth about Gonzaga. Probably not as good as they've been. Probably not as good as some of us assumed they'd be, but still is a good, legitimate, top 20 college basketball team. I'm not sure that's true about North Carolina right now.
Well, I told you shouldn't have had North Carolina ranked, and now obviously you won't, but they shouldn't have been ranked a few days ago because they hadn't proved it. Now, let's talk Carolina. I got a note on Gonzaga, but we'll loop back. We'll wrap that with Baylor. So Bacot, obviously, Armando Bacot did not play. Right shoulder contusion happened in the Indiana game. He wasn't on. Also, why I wanted to ask you this, because Carolina was on at full strength. Now, if he's on the floor, does Carolina win? Actually, maybe. Justin Mutz went off in this game. He's the sort of sleeper for ACC tournament first team come March. He had 27 points on Sunday, showed a variety of moves, and acting as sort of like the wind in Virginia Tech sails in this game, GP. No Bacot on the floor is part of why he thrived, undeniably. Have to believe if Armando Bacot is healthy and playing on Sunday for Carolina, Justin Mutz isn't going for 27. If he's not doing that, VT might still win, but Carolina would have had a better shot there. So you didn't have Bacot. And then they also announced, by the way, DeMarco Dunn, not a major factor on this team, but he's got a broken bone in his right hand. He's going to be out for several weeks. So they just don't have another player. They're already dealing kind of with depth issues. I did think it was asking a lot for UNC to go into Virginia Tech in this spot and get a win. This is a Virginia Tech that also bumped Carolina out of the ACC tournament last March. I was there in Brooklyn when that happened. I actually thought UNC had a good second half for the most of it without Baycott, like B+, A- kind of effort overall. They sliced into an 18-point deficit and made the game close in the final few minutes. But you could also say that if you're an elite team, you shouldn't be finding yourself down by 18. I get that as well. Nance Love and RJ Davis each had 18 apiece. Leaky Black, he's got to do better than scoring 2 points. He'd admit that if he was on the pod right now. He's just got to be better. And UNC's terrible from three, man. UNC was 3 of 17 from three-point range. It's now shooting 29% from beyond the arc through 9 games. Last season, Carolina finished 35.8% from three-point range. A lot of coaches will tell you that's about that 35% mark. That's what you're hoping to be from deep. Like it's if you can be better than that, obviously, but like you don't want to be too much worse. Just short of that is manageable. Sub 30% can be extremely detrimental, and it's one of many issues with North Carolina right now. It's at 29.2% from three-point range. Caleb Love has taken 61 three-pointers and made only 16 of them. His 26.2% three-point accuracy mark is identical to RJ Davis, who's now 11 for 42 from three-point range. So, yeah, man, like Carolina, it's a problem right now. I asked this on Twitter. I still don't have an answer. I don't know. It's, maybe a research department's looking this up and we'll know it. Or if you know it, like they were the preseason number 1 team. They're going to be unranked in the 5th week of the regular season. So I don't know if that's ever happened before. Has a preseason number 1 performed so poorly that by the 5th AP top 25 poll, so there's a preseason poll, that's the first poll. And then the first 4 weeks of the season are weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. So by the 5th poll, have we ever had a preseason number 1 team fall out? I do not know. What I do know is this. There has not been, and I'm not going there yet, but I'm just at least bringing this up because I did look it up. Since the field expanded, Parrish, in 85, every preseason number 1 team has made the tournament. Everyone has made the tournament there. 74-75 NC State went 22-6 and didn't make it in a 32-team field. A little bit of a different era there, obviously. I still think Carolina's going to be in the tournament, but you start 5-4, you play the way you're playing, certainly UNC fans are going to start wondering, like, can we get this done? You're going to have more opportunities, although in the ACC, it's going to kind of be like last season. Like, you'll have some. It's not going to be a top 3 league in the country. So I agree with you. Carolina's the bigger deal right now. It's the bigger story coming out of the weekend, even if we're not that surprised. And, like, Carolina was not necessarily expected to win the game. Gonzaga was expected, but to me, UNC's the bigger deal.
In Monday morning's update, obviously, I do have Carolina out of the top 25 and 1. They've played now 4 top 75 KenPom teams and lost to every one of them. And you mentioned Baycott not playing. There was another interesting quote attributed to Hubert Davis during the game. First off, the game was interesting because it felt like Virginia Tech was just going to run away with it, the way people just ran away from Carolina last December and January. And the announcers, I believe Randolph Childress was one of them, were like, they kept talking about it, and they'd be like, yeah, like Virginia just looks like, and Carolina can't do this. And then they'd say, but there's still a long way to go, or it's not over. But like, it sounded like they didn't believe that. They were just saying it, but don't leave us. We go, there's still time. But it didn't sound like they believed it. And I don't know that I believed it either. But Carolina did come back and make it competitive. And so that is some fight, if you're looking for some good. That is some fight that they showed on Sunday that they didn't show in December and January of last year in certain moments. So again, if you're trying to take a positive, maybe that's it. Here's the comment that was interesting. The announcing crew, the broadcast crew, was talking about Baycott. This is pretty early in the game. Or no, it may have been maybe close to halftime, maybe even early in the second half. Because initially UNC just announced Armando Baycott will not start. But he did go through warm-ups, and he was in uniform. So it was like, okay, maybe they'll bring him off the bench. But then it became clear he's just not playing. And the crew said that they talked to Hubert about it yesterday, maybe, or earlier today, and that Hubert told them, I don't know, that just sort of stood out to me, that Baycott isn't injured, he's just sore. And it comes after this other quote following the Indiana game where Hubert said The difference in the game was Trace Jackson Davis. Right now, Indiana's got a guy in the front court that they can run offense through and get points on every possession, and we just don't have that in our front court right now. I'm paraphrasing, but that is more or less what he said. So there's been, and then this one, I'm assuming according to Armando Bacot, he is too hurt to play. But according to the announcers, Hubert stopped short of calling him hurt or injured. He actually said, again, this is according to the announcers, that Bacot is sore, not hurt. Perhaps a distinction without a difference, but it sounded odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big spot. Maybe he just it might have just tried to give it a go and couldn't give it a go because I actually have since deleted it in my inbox because there was a note from Carolina Information before the game, and I think the hope was that he would be able to play, but you also got to get him right here. I mean, UNC's, it's not an absolute must win, but like they got. I assume they have finals now because they don't have any games until Saturday, and they're home against Georgia Tech. Like you got to beat Georgia Tech, man. Like you got to beat Georgia Tech, and they should. And then they got Citadel, but they've still got Ohio State and Michigan on the non-con before we get to Christmas there, and so maybe they just want to make sure that he's where he needs to be, and they were in a tough spot. I don't know, but it was what you're getting at there. I couldn't help but notice it as well.